Hello and welcome to the Tarkus Zone. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about the game Frozen Flame. And I'm going to be going over to the GPortal settings. Currently the game does not offer public servers, so if you want to play with friends, there's a couple ways you can go about doing it. This is the cleanest way I found. It is going to cost you some money. I've got a 24 slot server here, and I rented it for 3 months. Came to about $63 American. So I paid that. I've got it locked in. Here we are. Like I said, there's other ways you can go about doing this. And if you've got the bandwidth and you've got a dedicated box at your house, you can pull it off. I just wanted to make sure that if I had up to 24 people on the server, that we would not be experiencing any lag due to connection issues. So if you're hosting it on your own box at home, you just want to make sure that you've got a beefy internet connection, because as you start loading that server down, they're going to be utilizing a lot of your bandwidth. So here we are, GPortal, and I'm just going to go over the configuration, what they allow you to configure. So here it's set for 24 because, again, I paid for that when I rented the server. The map is Haven. I guess that's just the default map for the product. I don't think this is changeable. No, it's just what it is. So it's basically what it's just what the game developer is calling the map. The next thing here is enabling the PvP mode, and this is just by this. That's on. PvP would be on the server. PvP would be off the server. So what that means is, can people hurt each other? So if you have it toggled as on, that means anyone that is not friends can do damage to each other. What we were finding is 90% of my player base that comes onto my server were non-PvP players. So they asked me to shut it off because they wanted to party together and fight bosses, but they didn't want to do damage to each other, and they didn't want to add anyone to their friends list. And I'm going to explain to you why that is the problem. Is in-game you can add people to your friends list, but all the doors and boxes that you create in the world to limit access to your stuff defaults to friends. So that means that if you just walk by Joe Smo next to you and he's like, hey, can you help me with this boss? And you've got PvP clicked on the server, that means they can't really fight the boss together without damaging each other, and that would require them to throw a friends request out, and people don't want to add people to their friends list in this game because that means that person now has access to their stuff. And so people were very hesitant to invite anybody to their list, even though you could kick the person out of your list as soon as you're done fighting the boss. People did not want to have to do that, so they asked me to shut PvP off so people on the server could work together without having to add people to that list. Whereas if they were added to your friends list, they would have access to whatever boxes or doors, unless you go in as a player. Like if I put a box down, I could change the permission to myself only. But in most cases, people are playing with real friends who have real friends in their list who want them to have access to that. So it became very dirty. So most of my people on my server asked me to shut PvP off. So we shut it off. And everybody's been really happy about it because they can go around without any hindrance working together to fight bosses in the world without damaging each other and not having to worry about people in their friends list that have access to all their stuff. So that's how that works. So we shut it off on the server. The duration of the day, I guess you can change that. I left it as default. How long in an in-game day lasts. All right. Health after death. That means that if you die, I could change this. I imagine I could change this to a 1 or 2. I'm not really sure what the percentage is, because right here it's like a 0.5, and I think that might be just like, well, maybe that's 50% of your health. I'm not really sure. This is what the default was. So when you die, you don't get all your health back on my server. You only get a portion of it back, which seemed fair. I left it default. Okay. In level up. So if you level up, this next one is, if you level up on the server, regardless of what level you go to or go to next, you're going to get all your hit points back. So that's default again. I left it default. So if you die or if you level up, you're going to get all your hit points when you level up. Again, these are all defaults. What the game developers left as default, so I left it alone. So your jump stamina cost is 6. So you could change this to a 0, meaning that when you jump in the game, it doesn't cost you any stamina. You could change it to a 12, where if you jump, it costs you 12 stamina points. Sprint stamina cost, same thing. If you're sprinting in the world, it costs you 6. Again, I left it as default. Armor durability reduction after death. So basically, loss of armor after death. So this is your durability of the stuff that you've got equipped on you. If you die, you'll lose 25 points off it. I think this is what it is. So anytime you die, so if your armor has a 300 durability, every time you die, it's going to shave 25 points off that 300 until you finally will need to repair it. You could change this to 0, meaning that after death, you don't lose any durability. And I would think that probably be the safe thing to do right now if you're setting up a server, because a lot of people are dying stupidly from lightning strikes in the new Dragon Grove that make no bloody sense whatsoever. And I understand the developers did it as I guess you have to look at the weather, because I guess if there's a lightning storm going through the area, then when you try to hop from one island to another, the storm hits you and then robs you of your energy and you fall to your death. So I guess they tried to make it hard mode where you have to watch out for the weather. But because of the way the rendering is, you don't even see the storm. So it looks like a clear damn day. And you're going to jump from one island and all of a sudden you get hit by lightning. And people are just complaining about it. So, I guess while that's happening, I guess you could change it to 0, whereas people won't lose durability, because that was their biggest gripe. It was the fact being is getting killed by the lightning stupidly, and then taking the armor reduction on top of that. It's just people. I've got at least 4 people that have come to me and saying this is frustrating, and I said I understand it's a design of the game, but the developer really needs to make those storms look better so that people understand that they're flying into a storm, and by doing so, the lightning's going to hit them. And, that's just the reality of how it works right now. All right, default weapon durability cost. So weapon durability loss speed is 0.5. So every time you use the weapon, the durability of the weapon goes down 0.5. I've been asked to change this to a 1 only because of the way the weapons repair costs are right now, which are ridiculous. I mean, it's like my staff. I got a metal staff in the game, and it seems like it's a full-time job just mining nodes to repair that sucker every time it goes down. So I've been considering this. I've been really have, because of the repair costs being so high, that if you allowed less durability to come off the weapon while people used it, it wouldn't hurt so much, I guess. But right now, when I go in game and I go to use my metal staff, I only use it for boss fights now because it's so costly. It costs like 8 iron ingots to repair it. It's ridiculous. It really is. It makes it not pleasurable to use anything in the metal category, because again, you're spending hours having to go grind those items just to repair that one item. It's ridiculous. It really is right now. So that's just my thoughts on it. I might change that moving forward, so that so people aren't ripping through their weapons, because because every time you use the weapon, this is what's ticking off 0.5 every time you go to use the weapon. So the min durability, the minimum durability that remains from a structure after system weather damage. So it's 0.3, and that means it's 30% of its full hit points. So if the wall starts at 500 points, it will go all the way down to the 30% mark, and then it will stop degrading because of the weather. There are some servers I've been on where they've had this to 0, meaning that the weather will destroy the building completely, and you have to continuously repair it. And people have asked me to leave it the way it is, because they don't want to spend their whole day just repairing their building. Because between having to spend your whole day getting mats to repair your items, they would have to spend all day collecting mats just to repair their homes, which they thought was ridiculous. So I said, yeah, I agree. Let's just leave it at 30. I probably should just put this on 100%. You know, put this at, I guess would be a 1.0. And this way the weather wouldn't hurt the buildings at all and they would remain at 100% of their value. I guess I could do that. I'll think about it. You could disable the overweight system in the game. So if you are running around and you don't want to be encumbered at all, you just click this off and you've bypassed the entire system. And well, I left it default. I think the weight system is fine in the game. I use the 3 perks that allow me to teleport while encumbered, run while encumbered, and fly while encumbered. And I'm not even using a backpack, and I don't even use a backpack in the game, because once you get those 3 perks, there's nothing that's really stopping you. So it's, you know, just get a few levels under your belt, get those perks, and you're basically disabling the overweight system yourself by using the in-game perks. All right, so the next thing is half slowdown overweight ratio. So the overweight disables sprint for players after they have a percent. I left this default. It's part of the overweight system, so I left it default. This one is overweight ratio enables to run getting. Okay, so again, it's part of the overweight system, and I left it at default. I guess you could play around with these numbers if you wanted to. Okay, allows to teleport with overweight. So there is a perk that you can get while leveling in the perk tree or the talent tree, which allows you to teleport well overweight. Here you can just click this on, allowing anyone on the server, if they have that perk or not, to teleport while they're overweighted. So you could click this and you can allow teleportation regardless overweight or not. All right, the next thing allows you to fly while overweight. Again, there's a perk that you can get in the game, in the talent tree, that allows you to do this. So you just have to put points into it. So you could, as an admin, shut it off completely. So you could shut off, so both those perks won't be necessary to get in the game anymore. You just spend your points elsewhere, because you'd be able to teleport and you'd be able to fly while encumbered if the server admin clicked these on, turned these on. Maximum level to drop items after death. So basically you can make this somewhat hardcore if you want, where you could, this number is so high so it doesn't affect anyone on the server. So if I change this to 10, let's say I change this number to 10, that means that anyone under 10th level wouldn't drop anything when they died. But everyone over 10th level would drop stuff after they died. So this is a cool, if you want to really make a hardcore server, PvP server, this would be how you do it. So you'd let new players keep their stuff until they hit a certain level, and then they would start drop items only after you hit that level. And then this next thing is what they drop. Drop equipped items after death. You can turn that on. Drop equipable items after death, meaning they're in your inventory, but you don't have them equipped. Like you have, like say you have your staff equipped, but you have a sword in your inventory. Well, if you have this one on, the staff would remain in your inventory, but the other item would drop out of your inventory if you died. That's how that works. Drop food on death. So if you had food in your inventory, you would drop all the food in your inventory when you died. So it allows you to kind of make a hardcore death kind of thing. None of my players wanted to drop anything after death. They were like, no, that's not what we want. This is a campaign. This is not a PvP thing now. We want to keep our stuff. We don't have to go pick it up. Because in most cases when you die, you're going to go and retrieve your experience. And at that point, you retrieve the items that you dropped. If it was a PvP world where somebody just killed you, they would retrieve both those things before you could get back to your body, because you would drop them both, and they would be, and the PvPer would be able to consume that, which makes sense in a PvP environment. All right, the next thing is multiplier radius of aggression on monsters. So this is, how far away a monster will aggro on you if you get close. I left it default. I mean, you could change this probably to 100. So then you could be sitting in the starter area and every monster in the world will probably come down on you. I don't know. Maybe, I mean, because it looks like you can change the radius so that every monster could find you, or you're going to aggro every monster in the world, no matter where you are. So I mean, if you change this to 1,000, what would that do? Go, every monster would be aggroed to you. So I left it at a 1. So whatever the default radius was, I left it that way. Disable building costs. Again, if you wanted to play in free mode, like say you rented your server and you just wanted free mode on, that's what this is. It allows you to build whatever you want, wherever you want, regardless if you've got the materials in your inventory or not. It just allows you to do that. All right. This is the one I clicked on because everybody was begging me to do it. I wouldn't say begging me to do it. They asked me to do it. What this one is here, it makes your buildings undestroyable, meaning that someone can't destroy your buildings in the game. And what the problem we were finding is people were getting on our server and just attacking buildings. They weren't following the rules. We had a rule that nobody attack any building on the starter island, but people were just griefing us, and people were coming back on the server and their buildings were destroyed. And I was like, well, then I'm just going to click this on. So now when you get into our world, you can attack a building, you can attack a box, you can attack anything you want. You're just not going to do any damage to it. And I wish that this was region specific, meaning that I could choose which island this was on. So it'd be nice if I could say, the cradle or the starting map, that this would be the case where all the buildings on the starter map could not be destroyed. And then I would leave the other islands alone, meaning that if someone built on an island outside the starter map, it could be destroyed. So I think they need to create a tree here where you could select at least a starter map where the buildings are protected. But here, the way it is now, because I've turned this on, every building, every asset that somebody makes in the game it won't take damage. I can't destroy it. What I've done to clean up the server sometimes is I'll click this off, and then I'll reboot the server, and I'll go onto the server and clean up some stuff that people have put down that they no longer use. And then I'll click this back on, and I'll reboot the server, and then it's back on and everything's protected again. So that's how I've done it. And what's this? Limited support. I'm not really sure what this. Oh, okay. What this is you could build as high as you want. You could build whatever you wanted and not have to worry about the support system. So your buildings right now require you to, really fasten them up a little bit so you can get a few stories out of them. If I click this over, that means that as long as you've got the materials, you can go as high as you want because the support is not needed in the game any longer. You're basically, by having this on, you're limiting the size of the buildings because they only can go so high. But if I click this off, the sky's the limit. I mean, people could go as high as they wanted. You could have massive structures in the world. And I'm afraid that if that was the case, the server would lag so much that we'd have problems because people would build these enormous homes and the server would just be plagued by lag. So I'm leaving this on or leaving it default for now, meaning that you have to support the building, and that will limit the size of the building that people can make. This is the demolish resource multiplier. So if you destroy something on your own using the red hammer, you're going to get 0.5 of the materials back. Okay, this frame rate from everything it's defaulted as 1, and I played around with this a little bit because I was like, well, I wonder if I changed it to a 10, would the minimum flame you get from killing creatures be 10? So I tested it for like 3 minutes. I changed it to a 10, and I noticed no difference. And I changed it to 100, and noticed no difference. So I don't know what it affects, but it's because I was interested to know because people were like, well, I want to progress a little faster. I want to get more quicker levels. And I said, I understand that. Let me play around with this number and see what a fair value would be to see if we could, so people could get in, level a little faster on the server. No matter what I changed this to, it just seemed like it was defaulted to 1 and it stayed at 1. So you're going to get, if you kill something or do something on the server, you're going to get a minimum of 1 flame. That's your experience rate scale for everything. So I left it, it's a 1. That's where I left it. All right, monster damage multiplier and monster's health multiplier. We had these at 2. And I had too many people complaining, people who weren't good at the game, complaining that this server was unplayable for them because they were running around naked all the time because they were just dying all the time, and their weapons and armor were just degrading because they were dying every single second. Now, when I had it at 2, and like hardcore people, we found it still easy. They had double health, they had double damage, and we still found it easy. But the problem is there were more people that were on the other camp where they wanted it easier. And so I returned it to a 1 status so that those players, and even then, when I returned it to default, they were crying that, can we reduce it even more to like a 0.5? And I'm like, no, come on, guys. The default to the game is 1. I'm not going to lower, I don't even know if I could lower it to a 0.5. I said, I'd prefer it at a 2. I'd prefer it at a 3 or a 4. But, I had to compromise because the majority of the people that play on my server are just PvE players that wanted to play. So basically my server turned into a PvE server because 90% of the players that play on my server, that's what they wanted. And they wanted it easier monster killing. And so here we are. This is what the settings are. I'm fine with it. Either way, I found the game to be very easy for me. And there are obviously people that find the game very hard. And so I made the setting, put it back to default. Restricts flying. So this is your flying barrier nonsense, where if you try flying within the barriers, the lightning's going to hit you. With this Boolean on, the lightning's going to hit you if you're within the barriers. If I shut this off, that means the lightning no longer affects any people on the server. So I'm considering turning that off because of the craziness that people are jumping from in Dragon Grove, jumping from one island to the other and getting hit by the lightning that they don't even realize why they're getting hit. So that would fix that problem. But I'm trying to make the game as close to the developers, or make the settings as close to the developers' vision as I can. So I thought keeping it on was a good thing, and I'll talk to my player base some more about it, because it doesn't matter to me if people want to fly everywhere. That doesn't really matter to me. But I was trying to make the server somewhat to what the vision of the developers were. So let me just go into the game here, and here I am. Now I want you to know that Tarkus only did the quest line up to flying, to get my flying, and then I stopped. So I have done no quests after getting flying, and I've been able to do all the Dragon Grove stuff that I wanted to do. So I basically bypassed the entire second. I didn't do anything in this zone, nothing. I haven't killed Titan in this zone. I basically got flying, and then I stopped questing. And then when my friend put a teleporter down here, he put this teleporter in, I flew directly at like 10th level, I flew directly to Dragon Grove, and I've only been playing in Dragon Grove since then. And that's how I play the game, because I'm not a campaigner. I could care less about the quests. I could care less about the campaign. I could care less about killing bosses. If somebody asks me to help them, I'll help them. But for me, this game is about crafting and building and supporting the people that are around me. So I went right to Dragon Grove, and that's how I've been playing. I haven't done any of the quests. So that's where I'm at. And I've got, I'll show you the items. Yeah, granted, because I have not done the quests, I don't have all the rings. But what do I care? The game's easy mode for me. The game's not that hard for me. I was running around, ask anybody, I was running around naked until like 22nd level. That's how easy I found the game. I said, look guys, I'm in hobo beast mode. And they're like, dude, you're fighting bosses, you're completely naked. I was like, yeah, I am. I said, the game's easy. I mean, the only reason why got equipment on now is because why not? I'm at the end game. I've gotten all the equipment that I wanted. I help out people when I can, but I don't even have a backpack. Again, I don't have a backpack because I bypassed by getting the talents that I needed to just run encumbered, fly encumbered, and port well encumbered. I don't need a backpack. What do so I don't even have a backpack. So that's and you're probably asking yourself, well, you aren't be able to get much done if you can't carry anything. Well, I built this entire structure that I'm standing in. I built my entire house down in Dragon Grove. I've not had any encumbrance that I felt in the game. I mean, I found the game to be, quite easy. I mean, when it compared to some of the hardcore games I've played in my life, this game is pretty much a piece of cake. And once you understand the talents that you need and the perks that you need, then you can pretty much get away with playing the game naked. I mean, that's what I did for the longest time. People were like, that's like insane, Tarkus. And I'm like, well, I mean, I wanted it challenging. You guys make me change the Boolean from a 2 to a 1, meaning that the monster did double damage and had double hit points. When I was asked to change that value to a 1, that's when Tarkus got naked. I was like, okay, I'm going to make this challenging for myself, and I just went around naked all the time. Even when I was freezing to death, I just ran around with a torch. So I'd be in zones where I would start to freeze to death because I was naked, and I'd just pull my torch out for a minute, and then I'd go back to doing what I was doing. So I could bypass not needing any armor at all. And I never really get hit unless the lag is bad, which sometimes can be the case. Well, I hope this video was helpful to you. I want to thank you for watching my videos. If you like my videos, please subscribe down below. Have fun gaming. Thank you for joining me. This has been the Tarkus Zone.